Thanks for staying with us on the program this morning as we revisit pressing topical issues in the news. We'll be joined virtually by our next guest, who is the immediate past National Youth Leader of Labour Party, Comrade Eragbe Anslem. Good morning to you, Comrade Anslem. Can you hear me? Hello, Comrade. Now, as Comrade connection looks to buffer, let's also keep you in the know of the recent protest that was staged in Port Harcourt by pressure groups demanding the reinstatement of the suspended Rivers Governor, Siminalayi Fubara. Now, this has also been met by calls by civil society organizations who are leaning towards calls by the human rights activist and human senior lawyer Femi Falana, who is also calling for the removal of the Rivers Sole Administrator, Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibas, retired. Now, this would make for our first conversation before we look at the Labour Party in itself in terms of the chairmanship tussle following the Supreme Court ruling. I don't know if our Comrade Anslem's connection is much better now. Let's attempt to reconnect. Hello, Comrade. Can you hear me now? Well, I can see you, but do well to check that you're not muted at your end. Comrade, can you hear me? Well, we'll attempt to rejoin Comrade in a bit, but let's also paint that picture of the protest with protesters carrying placards. It was also captured on one of our newspapers this morning. We'll just revisit the front page there to give you a better insight into it. On the Daily Monitor earlier, beneath the headline story, you'd find that picture of prominence with protesters carrying placards, and it's with the caption, "Governor Fubara is the reason why Rivers State is peaceful. If not Governor Fubara, who else?" Another placard says Governor Fubara has calmed river people because he's a man of peace and a loving man. As a group of known protesters stormed the Port Harcourt Township area in a peaceful demonstration calling on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to reinstate suspended governor of the state, Siminalayi Fubara, on Tuesday. The photo credit is given to the Niger Delta Insider. It's in the wake of this that we're looking to have this conversation with Comrade Anslem before we look at developments as it concerns his party, the Labour Party, following the Supreme Court judgment that was captured earlier in publications making the round on the position of its national chairmanship as keenly contested, with fractions, the Julius Abure faction, who has defied a recent Supreme Court ruling nullifying his leadership. The NLC has also accused the former national chairman of moving against the court judgment. Comrade Anslem, can you hear me now? Hello, good morning to you, Comrade Anslem. Can you hear me? Yeah, the framing is quite okay. It's just on the audio connection. Can you hear me? Well, Comrade seems to be struggling to have his connection on point this morning. And much like I was saying before I attempted to rejoin him, the Nigerian Labour Congress has also accused the former national chairman of the party, Mr. Julius Abure, of flagrantly defying his recent Supreme Court ruling that nullified his leadership. You would remember that a panel of the Supreme Court, a 5-member panel, had unanimously held that the appellate court had no jurisdiction to meddle in the party's tussle, and this matter of the position of the law as it concerns internal party issues has been much debated upon by persons in the media this morning. An opposing faction of the party has interpreted the verdict as being in their favor, and in a press release like we saw signed by the NLC president, Comrade Joe Ajero, the Labour Union condemned Abure's continued claim to be the party's chairman, despite what it described as an explicit and unambiguous Supreme Court judgment delivered on 4th April 2025, affirming the expiration of his tenure. This would be our second point of conversation. And then we'll look at the proposed meeting following the return of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu following his recent visit to the UK and Paris, with a meeting scheduled between the National Security Advisor and service chiefs to address the rising case of insecurity across states in Nigeria, predominantly in Plateau and Benue states, with a recent attack in Kwara as well that has left on a scorecard of 83 persons dead in the last 5 days. And our penultimate conversation on the program as we look to conclude this morning would be the 2027 polls, with a strong reply from Adebayo to the Atiku-led coalition as it concerns the position of the Social Democratic Party being a vehicle for the merger that has been much contemplated on. We've seen defections with former minister and governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, leading those defections, and many are doing the permutations and calculations that the merger might just be started by the SDP. Would the PDP be willing to join this coalition, in spite of the recent comments made by the FCT minister that the party does not have its house in order and he would not be supporting them going into 2027? So these are the issues that we'll be looking to discuss with Comrade Anslem. Again, let me see if we have a better connection with Comrade Anslem. Otherwise, we'll go on a break and see if we can join him via the phone. Well, thanks for staying with us on the program this morning. We do sincerely apologize for the delays in connecting with our guest this morning, but on the alternative, other than having him virtually, would have him over the phone. I'm talking about the immediate past National Youth Leader of Labour Party, Comrade Eragbe Anslem. Good morning to you, Comrade Anslem.
Good morning, Comrade. Well, ADBN Television, James. It's my pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you on air. My name is Bito rather than James. Let's pick on the first issue making the rounds this morning off the back of a recent protest held in Port Harcourt. Civil society organizations and a pressure group is calling for the reinstatement of the suspended Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara. What do you make of this calls as against the calls by the human rights lawyer Femi Falana SAN, who is calling for the outright removal of the sole administrator?
Well, thank you, Comrade. What Nigerians have engaged in doing is the proper thing. What we have in Nigeria is a democratic system. So, however, notwithstanding that the laws are permitted for a state of emergency, we saw only recently that the procedure via which the state of emergency was implemented was probably unconstitutional, to the extent that the position of the National Assembly that had to do with the House of Rep and the Senate concurring or rejecting the position of the president on that matter was not duly followed. What I mean by that is to say the National Assembly needed to show us how they voted for or against the position of the emergency, state of emergency in Rivers State. So, Femi Falana and fellow Nigerians who are insisting that the Rivers State government structure be reinstated are doing the right thing. So, that's the right way to go.
Now, and it's also the angle to the conversation on some of the infringements as alleged by Mr. Femi Falana, where he says that as sole administrator is under no obligation to appoint administrators in the 23 local government areas. Do you see that as a major violation of the presidential order and the provisions of the law?
Well, ideally, what was expected really in the state of emergency, ordinarily, would have been to beef up certain aspects of the River State structures to the extent that the democratic structures will have remained ordinarily. The governor should have remained, other structures, the state assembly should have remained. Now, there would have been proviso such that after certain peace, a measure of peace is reinstalled. What is the peace about? It had everything to do with the minister of the FCT, who pitched a fight against the incumbent governor. So these were matters ordinarily that could have been resolved, ordinarily. We are aware that the president mediated once or twice, but it yielded no fruitful results, to the point where there had to be a show of power. Because what basically happened was a show of power. We saw the governor trying to go to the state assembly at the time to have that meeting, but they rebuffed him, and it culminated in a state of emergency. So the proper thing now is for the executive arm of government to restate the democratic structures in Rivers State so that there could be peace. Because remember, I addressed the press on one of these issues sometime to say, in the days ahead, there are going to be massive agitations in Rivers State because things have not been done properly. So I want to lend my voice to all of those well-meaning Nigerians who are insisting that the state of emergency be put off in Rivers State and the democratic structures be reinstated so that we can have meaningful progress and development.
Now, comrade, let's also talk about this 6 months initial period that is now entering its second month from the perspective of those calling for a constitution of some sort of reconciliatory committee to mediate between the governor, the State House of Assembly, and the FCT minister to find a lasting solution to some of the issues that have seen a breakdown in working relationship in Rivers. What's your opinion on this so-called reconciliatory committee?
Well, every reconciliation has to have a legal and human face, because I wonder what reconciliation people are now looking for when the President of the Federal Republic, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, made efforts once, made effort twice to resolve this matter, and the parties refused. So what ought to be done? Now, you asked an earlier question that had to do with the legality of the appointment of structures within the local council. Of course, if you look at it from that angle, because there is a sole administrator, one would have expected that other structures be put in place for effective administration of the government, which is like the local government structures. But because we're in a democratic setting, you know, a political face is being given to what is happening. Because if there are elected structures that have been suspended, then suddenly the sole administrator wants to start putting in his own structures that are not elected over the next 6 months. No, that should not be allowed. What should be done is reinstate the elected structures of the State Assembly, the executive structures, and every other structure, and let the governor and his government be able to put in place the remaining structures, probably in the local government, if there are no local government structures, depending on what is happening there. Because whatever measures the sole administrator put in the next 6 months are still going to be done with, probably within the next 4 months. Because true to it, if the state of emergency is lifted, let's say at the end of 6 months, it then means this structure they are putting in place will only be there for 4 months. So it is better we put in sustainable structures where the elected structures, democratic structures will be reinstated almost immediately. Structures in the local government that are not there be put in place. Now, governance should not take its course. So I think the idea of the state of emergency should be terminated almost immediately.
Quite interesting perspective there on the River State's development. But let's now come to the issue of your party, the Labour Party, in terms of the chairmanship tussle. It's been on the debates of the legalities of a Supreme Court verdict on the position of the national chairman, Mr. Julius Abure, citing the expiration of his tenure, a judgment that was passed on the 5th of April 2025. Despite that judgment, we saw Mr. Abure's response with reports in the media that the appellate court had no jurisdiction to meddle in internal party affairs. Now, we're also looking at a new publication where the NLC president, Comrade Joe Ajero, has called Mr. Abure reckless and is calling on security agencies to show restraint in his approach to parading himself as the chairman of the Labour Party. I'd like to get your perspectives on this development. What's the issue with the chairmanship position in regards to the tenure of Mr. Abure?
Okay, thank you, comrade fellow Nigerians. Eragbe Anslem, again, the immediate past national youth leader of Labour Party. First and foremost, it is an affront and an insult on the Supreme Court in Nigeria that the Supreme Court on the 4th day of April 2025 gave a judgment in suit number SC-CV 56/2025 between Senator Esther Nenadi Usman, the Labour Party National Caretaker Committee Chairman, Senate Honorable Daliti Wokucha, Labour Party National Caretaker Committee Secretary. Those are the appellants in that suit. And the Labour Party, the first respondent, the Independent National Electoral Commission, the second respondent. In that judgment, the Supreme Court said that judgment was meritorious. The three matters in issue were awarded in favor of Senator Esther Nenadi Usman, who now is the legitimate national chairman of the Labour Party in caretaker committee arrangement, because we're in a transition government. Now, quickly, we were elected from a national convention on the 10th of June 2019, the 20 of us. Julius Abure was elected as a national secretary, Eragbe Anslem as the national youth leader. The tenure of that government was supposedly 4 years to terminate on the 9th of September 2023. However, because of the issues in the election, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal and other matters that arose from the 2023 general election, however, I want to insist that there was an illegal NEC meeting on the 17th of April 2023 that Abure attended and purportedly got a 1-year extension. Illegal because Abure was under a subsisting FCT High Court restraining order for perjury, for forgery, and criminal conspiracy. But Abure, in his usual manner, in contempt of the FCT High Court, proceeded to Asaba on the 17th to conduct an illegal and unlawful National Executive Council meeting of the party, from where he got a supposedly 1-year extension. However, that supposed 1-year extension elapsed on the 8th of June 2024. But prior to this expiration of tenure, Abure had proceeded illegally on the 27th of March 2024 to conduct an illegal, unlawful, and unconstitutional national convention in Inewi, Anambra State. Why is it illegal? Why is it unconstitutional and unlawful? Because we had what is called the terms of settlement. There's an out-of-court settlement, consent judgment granted on the 20th of March 2018 by Justice Gabriel Kolawole that formed the basis for the terms of settlement. INEC, in a mediation on the 26th of April 2022, mediated between the Labour Party and the Nigeria Labour Congress on these matters, where terms were reached, and those terms were executed in agreement on the 27th of June 2022. 7 issues were raised for settlement. 1. The term said, form the BOT, Board of Trustees of the party, inaugurated within 30 days, and the nomination for the NLC were 4, amongst which one of them was supposedly the BOT chairman, SOZ Jofo, that was signed upon. 2. The second term said, form the statutory members of the Labour movement into the Labour Party. That way, the Labour movement nominated Dr. Mrs. Ladi Ilia as the Deputy National Chairman, NLC, and Dr. Lorufemi as the Deputy National Chairman, TUC. So, making 4 Deputy National Chairmen for Labour Party. Because, however, from the convention of 10 June 2019, Maria Lebeke was elected as the Deputy National Chairman North. Alhaji Lamidi Bashir Apapa was elected as the Deputy National Chairman South. That's 2. Now, with the terms of settlement signed on the 27th of June 2022, Dr. Mrs. Ladi Ilia became the Deputy National Chairman NLC. That's the 3rd deputy. Then Deputy National Chairman for the TUC, Dr. Lorufemi. That is now the 3rd terms of settlement said conduct congresses. Now, leading to the National Convention. So the term said conduct world congresses to elect the World Executive Council structures for the party. 2. Conduct local government congresses to have the local government executive structure for the party. 3. Conduct state congresses to elect the state executive structure for the party. Then 4. Do delegate convention to elect delegates that will come to the National Convention to vote for the National Working Committee members. 5. Do the all-inclusive and expansive National Convention where the NLC, the TUC, the entire Labour Party structure and stakeholders, in line with the terms of settlement, will be part of a holistic process to electing the new National Working Committee members who will now drive the process for the party. However, Abure did not do any of these processes. So INEC, in his affidavit on oath on the 23rd of July 2024, stated 4 issues categorically. 1. INEC said Abure's tenure, which is our tenure, expired on the 8th of June 2024. 2. INEC said the convention Abure claimed, the purported convention, was not a convention because it violated the terms of settlement. because there were no congresses conducted, leading to the election of delegates, because the only people that have constitutional power and right to vote in that national convention are the delegates, who would have been elected from that process that were not elected. So how did Abure come about a national convention? However, INEC was not in attendance. INEC said, we did not receive notices from Julius Abure for the conduct of these congresses across the world, local government states, that culminated in election of delegates. 2, INEC said we did not participate. 3, INEC said Abure's tenure expired. INEC said the party, National Executive Council, had the power to appoint, upon expiration, members to fill vacancies in the National Working Committee. So, what I've told the world now is to say, Abure boasts all along that with money he can do everything and anything. So we are now seeing how Abure is using his money he has acquired illegally to subvert, in contempt of the Supreme Court judgment, to subvert relevant authority processes. The Inspector General of Police had, however, sent a prosecution order on the 25th of October 2023 to the Honorable Attorney General of Federation and Minister of Justice for the prosecution of Julius Abure. That matter is still pending in the Ministry of Justice, for which there was a press conference by the party waiting to picket the minister's office to the fact that this order for prosecution be implemented. So what we are saying now is the NSC is right, but the NSC should go a step further. I remember when Abure was restrained by the FCT High Court from parading himself and his co-criminals. NSC went and uprooted Apapa, who was the legitimate acting national chairman. So what NSC needs to do right now, other than the instruction that the NSC president has issued, the political commission has to now mobilize Nigerian workers, mobilize other party, and go to the national secretariat and take over that national secretariat. Abure has no basis from on the 4th of April 2025 to parade himself as the national chairman and to do anything in the Labour Party national secretariat.
Well, Comrade Anslem, I must thank you for a quite comprehensive narration of the ordeals predating when the Supreme Court gave its judgment, helping Nigerians understand the party position with regards to the end of the tenure of which you're part of. But my question now is on a seemingly perceived fracture in the party's leadership. I don't know if you've seen Dr. Abayomi's position on this matter, where he may seem as though he supports Julius Abure. What's the position of the Labour Party's constitution when it comes to those responsible for notice of conventions, which seems to be part of the issues that were not followed through in that out-of-court settlement order?
Okay, thank you. Quickly. Now, for Dr. Eragbe Anslem, first and foremost, Abayomi laid the precedent for the destruction of the Labour Party in Nigeria when on the 29th of March 2021, in a NEC meeting where supposedly the NEC was meant to appoint or ratify the position of the national chairman, because however, when the late chairman passed on the 29th of December 2020, on the 30th after the burial, we came back from Mina. We had an emergency national working committee meeting where Maria Lebeke, the deputy national chairman, North, was appointed in a vote, because there were vote cast, I think 11-4, 11-5 thereabout, between Alhaji Lamidi Bashir Papa and Maria Lebeke. And Maria Lebeke emerged the winner of that voting process in the NWC to emerge the acting national chairman for 90 days. Now, at the end of the 90 days was on the 29th of March 2021 in the NEC meeting in Benin, where so many conspiracies took place. Eragbe Abayomi, in collusion, moved a sole motion which was seconded by the Sokoto State Party chairman, and Abure and the rest of them refused counter. So that illegal motion was the reason why Abure illegally, unlawfully, and unconstitutionally, as national secretary, assumed the position of the national chairman, which is illegal till tomorrow. That is one. That said, now the procedure for a national convention that says the national secretary, on the instruction of the national chairman, puts out a notice for convention will have been tenable if we had a subsisting tenure on the one hand. That is said, remember, I just told the world that the processes leading to the conduct of national convention upon the 27th of March 2024 were all constitutional, illegal, null and void, because Abure, in its usual mode of criminality, thought it could deceive the NSC, the TUC, the party structures by not conducting those processes for the emergence of delegates that will vote. So you don't go to a national convention and appoint yourself. No, it's not done that way. You go to the congresses, you do all of these things, you elect delegates who will come and vote. So if Abure knew what he did, but unfortunately for him, everybody is smarter than Abure. So these are the processes. So when, with the expiration of this tenure on the 8th of June 2020, the National Executive Council of the party had a NEC meeting in Abia, Umuahia, on the 4th of September, where Senator Nenadi Usman was appointed as the national. Remember, I've told the world that our tenure expired. Remember, I've told the world that the processes leading to the convention were not proper, and so INEC, the umpire, dissociated itself from those illegal processes. So there was no national convention. So let that point be stated emphatically to the world that there was no national convention under Abure. And 2, that Abure's tenure expired. And 3, that the NEC, consisting now of only 9 members, because the members of the NEC of the party are 1, the party state chairman and secretaries, 36 states plus FCT, that's 37 times 2. 2, the 20 members elected from the national elected from the national convention, who are members of the national working committee, the 19 of us. We are now 18 because 2 passed. Our national chairman passed, A. Salam, may so rest in peace, in 2020, December 29th, and Adi Shisha, national vice chairman, North Central, passed in the course of the 2023 general election. So we have lost 2 of us, remaining 18 of us. So other members of the NEC are 1, the NSC president, the NSC secretary general, the NSC chairperson, women political commission, the TUC president, the TUC secretary general, the TUC chairperson women commission. That's 6. The constitution says the elected governors and their deputies under Labour Party platform are members of NEC. In this case, we had only Governor Alex Oti of Abia State and his deputy. That's 8. Now the BOT chairman and secretary are members of NEC. That's 10. Now, however, because of the terms of settlement signed upon on the 27th of June 2022, SOS Jofor was appointed as the nominee for the NSC as the board of trustees chairman. So, but because Abure did not compose the other membership and inaugurated, so the BOT secretary is not counted now because the BOT structure has not been fully composed. So, these 9 members called a NEC meeting in Umuahia in Abia State on the 4th of September, when Nenadi Usman, Dali Tuwokocha were appointed as chairman, critical committee, chairman and secretary, and 27 others, making a 29 member to fill the vacancies of our NWC that already expired. So these are the explicit issues concerning party structures. So the matters of Arababe are neither here nor there because, like I said, we have no valid tenure, and so we are not subsisting. So the constitution no longer held its course because why? All of those structures have been abrogated by reason of the expiration. So, and the authority have appointed to fill vacancy was the NEC that so did. And you remember the NEC on the 9th of April, just last week here, was in Abuja, Transcorp Hilton, to have another NEC meeting where they reconfirmed those positions they had appointed earlier on the 4th of September 2022. So Abure is nowhere in the party. Abure is a floor member of the party. He's an ordinary party member with effect from the Supreme Court final judgment. However, the Supreme Court had ruled that the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal that gave judgment to Abure had no jurisdiction, and the Supreme Court dismissed all of those judgments granted Abure against the provisions of the law. So Abure is holding on to nothing. Abure deserves to be arrested now by the security agencies in Nigeria. However, from 48 and 49 for contempt proceedings against the Supreme Court judgment are going to be filed against Julius Abure for him to be prosecuted appropriately.
Well, Comrade Anslem,
that's the position.
We must thank you for making your submission this morning. Makes for an interesting conversation. We're hoping the time would have allowed for us to pick on it, issue an item one after the other, and critically analyze it from your position, knowing fully well that you were part of that tenor. But we're hoping that we can reschedule this conversation to be continued in a second part in the coming weeks. We must thank you for taking our time to join the conversation, however.
Thank you very much. As always, ADBN Television. My pleasure. On behalf of management, Senator Nenadi Usman, National Chairman, Senator Dali Tuwukucha, National Secretary of Labour Party. God bless you.
God bless you too. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, sir.